I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, February the 25th, where we've got a sick market, and by sick, I mean coronavirus sick. The fears over that disease, and it's just one of the many diseases that seems to start in China and then spread from there because they cannot seem to keep these things under control. But now we're hearing stories of it spreading more, spreading into some third world countries where who knows how much loss of life we can see when it gets into there, places that they don't have medicine, don't have a way to take care of those people. But it's killing the global economy, and it's killing our publicly traded markets in this country and in other major countries too. But for us cattle people, I tell you what, that's something we sure didn't need. Who would have thought that some kind of a disease way over in Asia was going to come in and cause people not to be able to pay off their loans, cause trouble in their home life, trouble in their finances, and it's really gotten to be a bad deal. Of course, it's not just in the cattle; it's in all your ag markets. Pretty much everything was down hard on Monday, but we did see some signs in the few overnight traded markets that things could turn around, and who's to say the market won't be up the limit someday this week? But it was down the limit on Monday, and that's the main thing that matters. But here in Miles City, Montana, if you guys are anywhere up in this North Country, after the sale on Tuesday, Miles City Livestock Commission, we're going to be having a small event there, but I'll be speaking. They got a speaker from IMI Global. But it's going to be a good informative session there, and if you guys can make it, we invite you to come to Miles City Livestock Commission and enjoy that get together. But look at the board on Monday. February live cattle futures down $2.72 at 117 even. Yes, that's where we're at. We're right here, mature at the end of February. This market, as this contract has come to fruit here at 117. We thought 120 was bad, but April down to $3 limit at 115 and a quarter. All your traded months were down over $2.50. March feeder cattle down $4.17 at 136 and a quarter. And man, it didn't take long for your cash feeder cattle to get that way too in your big high volume Monday sales. April down to $4.50 limit on Monday at 137.60. Down the limit for all the rest of 2020. Wow, who would have thought that a disease like a coronavirus could take the feeder cattle market in the United States down the limit every month for the rest of this year, and we just started this year. But look at your fat, your weighted average on last week's negotiated fat cattle trade out of your 5-area feeding region. It was a little bit bigger this week than we saw last week or last year, but still, well less than 20%. We've been running 10 to 15% of the total volume of fed cattle in your 5-area feeding region selling negotiated trade. I hope you guys that didn't see it will go back and look at the feeder flash for Monday. It's where we talked about the issues that came up at the winter thaw event over the weekend, and we kind of agreed there that it looks like your best chance to get something done about this market, the volatility, the vertical integration, all that. The best way that we can kind of control that is to come in and put a minimum, and we got to get government help. We got to make a law out of it. We have to mandate that, but get government help to come in and set a minimum requirement that these bigger packers have to buy negotiated cash. And maybe we can get it as high as 25 or 30%. Ask for 50. Make sure it's at least 20 and hope for somewhere in the middle. But we don't get 20 anymore. And if we had 20, that'd be the minimum that we can do to hold this industry together. But for you folks that have some pull in your local cattlemen's association, maybe your national cattlemen's association, any branch off from that, I challenge you to make that a policy. And that's how stuff like that gets done. Make that a policy within your association. Join arms with other associations. whether it's state associations, regional, national, whether it's RCAF, NCBA, U.S. Cattlemen's, anything, any member association that looks to try to continue the cattle industry and make it fruitful and make it working in a thrifty way to try to make a living and hold your property together and keep your family together and everything. We've got to do something, guys. And just trying to put labels on things, trying to get more of other outfits information, stuff like that. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, it'd be great, but I don't think it's going to work. But we've got to have negotiated cash trade if we're going to keep this industry alive. But you look at your fat cattle trade for last week, 74,800 head sold in your 5-area feeding region, negotiated cash. That compares to just 56,400 the week before and just under 45,000 same week a year ago. But you look at your live sales of steers and heifers, they range from 116 to 122, mostly at 120, and that was actually $1 higher because if you remember, we lost multiple dollars the week before because of the same thing, because of this coronavirus deal. And yeah, it's out there and it's coming. What are we going to do? Take cattle to nothing over it? Is that going to do anything to help? I just don't understand. But your weighted average on live steers for all of last week in your 5-area feeding region, negotiated cash, $119.71, up 81 cents. Your dress sales range from 189 to 191, mostly 190, and your weighted average on dress steers, 190.07. That was actually down 20 cents, but it was steady as a whole compared to the week before. Nationwide, 96,500 head, and that's actually fairly healthy, but it'd be a whole lot better if we could get close to 100,000 every week in your 5-area feeding region, but we haven't been able to do that consistently for a long time. About 10% of those sales were for the 15 to 30 day delivery, so your packers were not able to get things lined up to really blast the market as we move forward, get into heavier numbers of market-ready cattle, and I tell you what, we're in for a tough ride right here. And your feeder cattle generally follow your fat cattle because that's the number. Your cash fat cattle market every week, that's what all your calf and yearling prices look to. Has nothing to do with dressed meat, has nothing to do with your cutout values, because we cannot attain anything close to that. So it's all about your cash fat cattle market every week. We actually had trade on Monday here with all the fears and the board being down hard and everything. Guys coming out, they saw that basis. We're deep in our spot month, and guys in Nebraska and Iowa sold some cattle at 187. We had confirmed sales of 2,000 in Iowa and 300 in Nebraska, but there was more than that. We heard about it out in the country. If you're getting the texts and talking to people, you heard about it. But 187, that would be a full $3 lower dress negotiated in your 5-area feeding region, and that's kind of tough after really a not very good week the week before when we should have gained ground. But $3 lower on a Monday, come on. But we didn't have too much trade at that 187, and then your packers, and it was mostly one major packer, they picked that 187 up and pulled back to 185, and then we didn't see any more trade at that 185. But that's where it's probably going to be this week, unless we see the board turn around and pick everything back up that it lost on Monday. Look at your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction, late in the day on Monday at 140.78. That was down $1.11 from the end of last week. Look at your big high volume sales. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, 13,000 head. Well, what a week to have a big run like that. And I tell you what, that is tough. And of course your buyers sitting there knowing that there's a big run like that, they're awful patient. They don't have anybody too excited to be buying cattle. And even your stocker calves were sharply lower, and I hope some guys out there took this opportunity to get some stocker cattle bought, and because there's just we're gonna run out of these stockers, these lightweight calves. There's not enough of them for the places we got to turn them out this spring and summer. So you got to take advantage of these down markets if you want to buy some cattle. But your feeder cattle going right into the feedlot in Oklahoma City, $6 to $9 lower. Steer calves $5 to $15 lower than last week. Heifer calves $4 to $7 lower. Those consigners did not deserve that, but that's the market. Nothing wrong with Oklahoma National Stockyards. All your big high volume buyers are in there. There's just not a lot of demand when your board's down the limit. I saw one pretty impressive quote there on some feeder steers out of Oklahoma City. National Livestock sold some 81 head, 866 pounds at $136.50. That's a pretty good quote. That was a good quote last week. It's a hell of a good quote this week, especially on a hard down market like that. But I got to tell you, as hard as the market's down, I got to tell you what reality is on some plainer commodity type cattle. 112 of them weighed 816 at $123.50. Ouch. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 8,700 head there. Similar trend, and it's unbelievable how similar the trends are in those two big high volume markets, just up I-44 from each other. But feeders in Joplin, $5 to $7 lower. The heavier feeders weighing over 9 were $7 to $10 lower. Similar similar trend that they had in Oklahoma City. Calves $2 to $6 lower. And if you look at this automated market report from DV Auction out of Joplin Regional Stockyards, it just shows you the market, the actual market, not any premium deal, but market on commodity cattle, and you see how much lower it is. But you look at some of your best tested weights of steers. 1,174 head of the 5-weight steers, average $550 at $160.48. That was down about $7. 1,311 head of the 6-weight steers, average $649, $142.73, about $8 lower. My goodness. 847 head of the 7-weight steers, average $745, $134.94, about $3.50 lower. And near over 650 head of the 8-weight steers in Joplin, averaged $835 at $130.36, and that was sure $6 lower there. And that's just the market, guys. And it's pitiful that a disease that none of us have any control over is taking our cattle market down like this. Look at your top quotes for the day. Aberdeen livestock sales, Aberdeen, South Dakota, 91 head of 604-pound steers, bring 166 on Monday in Aberdeen. And the top quote that I saw was on some lighter weight calves out of Tri-State Livestock Auction, McCook, Nebraska. 92 head of 523-pound steers, bring 184.85, and that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.